Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Wednesday webinar. Appreciate you guys being patient with us today as we were dealing with some technical difficulties, but we're up and running now. So happy Wednesday. We are excited to have you with us. We have a few announcements before we jump into our presentation for today. Really quickly, our nonprofit needs request form is staying open. So please feel free to go in and update your needs. And we'll keep those cataloged and keep communicating with nonprofits about those requests that you're sending in. We also are kicking off our philanthropy book club. So this will be our second book that we're reading. And if you have interest in that, please reach out and email me. We had a lot of fun on our first book club. So this one we're reading No More Duct Tape Fundraising. So be sure to reach out. That's coming up May 13th. And Community Foundation will provide a copy of that book for you. Also, the Amazing Give reached a great milestone this week. Our relief page reached $200,000. So congratulations to all of you. That's amazing. We are excited. I see the hand clapping. So thanks, guys. You guys have done an amazing job with that, and we'll continue to push that. Remember, the Community Foundation is covering fees, so there are no fees associated with your page right now, up through June 1st. And then finally, this webinar is being recorded. Use the chat if you want to chat in any questions. Today, I'll be managing the chat, and so we're able to get all your questions in. So feel free to send those questions in as we go on. So we are very excited today to be joined by Aidan Augustin with Feathr, co-founder of Feathr. So I'm going to pass it over to him, and we'll get started for today. So thanks, Aidan. Let me unmute you.
Thank you. Happy to be here. So I'm going to fire up the screen share. One moment. Is that working for everybody? Perfect. All right. So main topic of the day is about digital advertising. So I'm just going to do like a quick overview of retargeting and a few other forms of targeted digital advertising, and share a bunch of examples of how that can work for your nonprofit. A little bit of quick background on myself. So again, my name is Aidan Augustin. I am a proud resident of Gainesville. I kind of have three different hats that are of relevance to this group here today. So I am the co-founder and president of a technology company called Feathr, and Feathr builds digital advertising tools. So that's kind of the expertise bring to the table for the topic today. But as a volunteer, I'm both the president of the board for a nonprofit called startGNV, recently branded from startupGNV, same organization. startGNV is focused on helping grow the innovation ecosystem of the greater Gainesville community. And I've been serving on the board for 4 years now, and this is my third year as president of the board. So focused on the tech community, startups, entrepreneurship, and kind of broader innovation ecosystem. And then I'm also on the board of directors for the Greater Gainesville Chamber. So that's a little bit about me, different perspectives I bring in here. So talking about Feathr for a second, we're a team of about 100 people. We're located in between campus and downtown. So we're right off of 6th Street in the area Innovation Square. And kind of the main thing that we do, like I mentioned, is we build digital marketing tools. We focus primarily on large conference and trade show organizers and professional associations. So a very specific type of nonprofit that is most of our experience, which is membership-based organizations, typically representing like a very specific industry or profession. So while some of the examples I've dropped in here may be more or less relevant to you, hopefully it's still helpful just for broad context on retargeting here. So we work with about 700 trade associations and professional societies, as well as a couple thousand conferences and trade show organizers every year, some nonprofit, some for-profit. So that's kind of just a little bit about us and about Feathr. So why does digital marketing, and in particular digital advertising, why is that relevant? Well, it turns out that people are spending a lot of time online right now. And this was true just broadly in 2020, even in January, right? So even before social distancing, would you believe that the average American spends somewhere between 7 and 10 hours every day on screens? So 7 hours if you don't count TV. So that's between laptops, mobile devices, and so forth. So 7 hours a day, not even counting TV, people spend on screens. People check their phone about 150 times every single day. And those stats go up as you go down the generational ladder. So younger cohorts spend even more time online. So people spend a lot of time online, but that's even more accentuated right now during social distancing, right? So depending on which kind of stats you like to believe, which outlets like to believe, website traffic on the whole is up somewhere between 20% and 70% across the board. News websites, some are seeing as much as 150% increase in site traffic right now. Kind of bigger social networks are seeing, closer to 20% site traffic. But people are spending a lot of time on the internet right now because there's not as much else to do, right? And that includes your potential donors as well as people who may engage with your programs. So I'm going to talk today about one of the very cost-efficient ways for you to reach them, to drive whatever action it is you might be wanting to do, and that is ad retargeting, right? And so ad retargeting kind of 101, the most classic example, and the one I'm sure every single person on this call has experienced, is you go to a website, right? You look at a pair of shoes online when you're shopping, you leave the website, and ads for that same pair of shoes start following you around, right? Everybody has had this happen to them before, whether it's shoes or it's refrigerators. It might be, software you're shopping for on behalf of your employer. It might be, you're looking for homes and suddenly ads start following you around from real estate websites, right? So everyone's experienced retargeting on the receiving end, certainly, right? And it's not magic by any means, right? They're very clearly targeting you and trying to bring you back to drive some type of action. So again, online shopping is the most classic example, where you put an object in your cart and you don't buy it, and ads for that pair of shoes show up in your Facebook news feed, and they show up on the New York Times, they show up on CNN, right? And it's not like this advertiser is buying out the front page of the New York Times, and they're not buying out all of Facebook, right? Those ads are uniquely showing up for you based on the fact that you recently visited that website. Just quick kind of bullets on this. You're tracking people who have visited your website, and then those very specific people within a certain time period say, anyone who's been to my website within the last 30 days, I want to show them this ad, and those ads will chase them around other websites. And some of the advantage of this is, even though it does cost money, it's very cost effective because you're only paying to reach people who already know who you are, right? They've already been to your website. So they're a warm audience. Another advantage of retargeting is you can nurture someone over time. So you can show them ads, and you can say, I want them to see the ad this many times over the next 4 weeks. And those ads, again, will kind of sprinkle around and follow them around. It's a way you can kind of stay top of mind with somebody. And also, you don't need their email address, right? This can all happen before they've signed up for anything. Just the fact that they visited your website is enough for you to be able to do this type of targeted marketing. So that's kind of some of the advantages of retargeting. But we're going to go under the hood today, and this is going to get a little bit technical and throw a lot of information at you, but I think it'll be interesting. Just like, how does this actually happen, right? So you go to this website and you leave. How is it that the internet knows to serve the specific ad to you when you're on these major national websites like the New York Times? Or if you go to my grandmother's blog, you're just as likely to see that same ad follow you around. It doesn't matter if it's New York Times or if it's like a website that gets one hit a month and it's you. So there's a process going on behind the scenes called real-time bidding. RTB is the shorthand for this. And it's all driven by the kind of like digital breadcrumbs that you leave behind, essentially, as you go about your business on the web, right? And I'm sure you've all heard the word cookies in this context. You have this vague sense that tracking cookies are a thing, IP addresses, device IDs. So cookies are the most common one, but through a variety of means, like you can be identified, even if it's anonymously. So they might not know that Aidan Augustin went to this website, but they'll know that site visitor number 5732B, this is the 6th time that same person has come back. So it is unique, even though it's anonymous. They'll know that I'm coming from a MacBook. They'll know that I'm coming from an internet connection in Gainesville, Florida. So there are a number of like these unique identifiers that they'll be able to see, okay, this specific device on this specific internet connection with this specific tracking cookie has done this set of actions, right? Looked at this pair of shoes, again, using the example here. And basically what happens under the hood is that whatever advertising tool you use puts the word out on the street saying, hey, I'm looking for this person, or I'm looking for these people. I'm looking for the cookies that have these numbers. I'm looking for device IDs that match these numbers. I'm looking for IP addresses that match these numbers. If you see them, internet, I'm willing to pay this much money to buy your ad space. So there's this whole like underbelly behind all of the different websites that have ads. And now over 85% of ads on the internet are bought and sold in this manner, right? So again, everywhere from the New York Times all the way to the Gainesville Sun, the Weather Channel, Food Network. I mean, it's like all over the board. As well as, again, like you start up your own blog and you drop in the little like ad, Google ad tags for AdSense. Same thing. It's all using the same technology. And so basically, while a page loads, it's looking at you, looking at your device, your IP address, your cookies, your recent searches, all these different metadata points that can be gathered about you. And then it goes to the other side, to the auction, says, who was it again that said they were willing to pay this much money to reach someone that matched these criteria? Okay, great. And then a transaction happens in a split second. So it's this real-time bidding process while the page is loading. And so the New York Times, what they've done, right, and anybody who has a website that has advertising slots, they predefine the slots. So, there's like one up top, and there's one on the side, and there's one on the bottom, and as you scroll down, right? So they preset the slots, and then they're plugged into what's called an ad exchange, and then that's what kind of fills that, right? So you can see our silly bird examples here, but like basically, again, there's literally a bidding process that's taking place in split seconds. And ultimately, to continue our example of Amazon and the running shoes, so in this case, Amazon wins that bid, and that's why this kind of space is filled with that ad. So that's kind of, again, the simplification of what's going on under the hood. People are literally outbidding each other for me versus for you, and that's why if all of us go to Facebook right now, or all of us go to CNN.com right now and keep hitting refresh, we're all going to see different ads. And every time we hit refresh, we might see yet more different ads because they are populating in real time as the page loads. So again, that's what's called real-time bidding. It's the split-second auction process. There's this concept of ad exchanges. So all you need to know is that there is this intermediary. So an ad exchange, they exist. They're kind of like, again, the backbone of this system. And so basically, as an advertiser using a tool, you say, I'm trying to reach these people. And then a website on the other side, the New York Times, is saying, I have these ad slots. And that information is sent to the same place. And so the ad exchange is this place that like connects the two together. Again, this is all happening in real time. So just using another example here. So we're Feathr, so we always like to throw examples out with birds in them, right? So this example here is promoting a large event, which is the most common use case for many of our customers. Again, we work with a lot of trade associations and professional societies, and they all have a big annual meeting, right? Or they have a big trade show that they do. So this example here, say we're promoting Bird Expo. Again, so it'd be the same idea of like this, I visit the Bird Expo website, and I leave, and ads for this Bird Expo registration are going to follow me around saying, early bird, don't forget to register, click here to sign up, right? So all the examples we've used so far here are this kind of simplification with banner ads, right? This is the most classic, the kind of like the leaderboard and the little box and so forth. And banner ads are still the most common format for this. But this same process does not only apply to kind of like the traditional banner ad. Again, it's over 85% of all digital advertising happens this way, and that includes social advertising, right? So in the Facebook newsfeed, in the Instagram newsfeed, that is essentially the exact same process going on. Twitter includes video ads, right? So on YouTube, like the 15-second ad that plays before you can watch your YouTube video, the exact same process takes place. That's why we all are seeing different 15-second ads on YouTube. It's because people are retargeting me versus you, and they're showing different ones. So this is, again, how the majority of digital advertising takes place. It's all this intentionally targeted manner. Okay, so just to show a couple more real examples. So this is a Feathr customer. It's the International Justice Mission, IJM. They use this methodology to drive donations, right? And so in this case, you visit the IJM website, you look at their mission, but for whatever combination of reasons, you don't sign up, or you don't donate, or you don't take whatever that call to action is right there on their page, right? But they're able to track on the back end with their website analytics that this is the second time you've been to their site, and you clicked around a couple of times. And so they're going to say, okay, this person's clearly interested. I'm going to try to give them a nudge to bring them back. And that's what's happening here, right? So I go to IJM's website, I don't donate, I leave. Now ads for IJM start following me around when I'm on the Weather Channel, when I'm on Facebook, doesn't matter where I go. This is an example, obviously, on a desktop computer, but it's the same concept on mobile, right? So you're reading sports news in the ESPN app on your phone, same thing. So ads from IJM are now following me around. They're on the web, they're on mobile, and the goal here is to try to drive me back to the site to donate. See a couple of things coming through the chat. Let me open that up real quick. Oh, that's just you. All right. Please do, yeah, if you have any questions along the way, please do send them in the chat. I'll try to keep this open here so I can see them as they come in. Just another couple of examples here. So this is, one of our membership-based organization customers, right? So this is the Association of Legal Administrators. In their case, they're trying to drive membership, right? So you're visiting the website, you're clicking around. If you're in this profession, you're looking at, why should I join as a member? Same thing. So you can see this concept here. There's an ad following around now with a clear call to action saying, join the association today, learn why that matters, click here to learn about the membership perks and so forth. One other quick example. Now, not a lot of conferences and trade shows are happening, but what many people are switching to are virtual conferences and virtual events. Webinars like this are kind of the kind of small example of that. This is an example of a more full-blown virtual conference. So this is another one of our customers that, in this case, it's like an educational conference where you get certification credits, right? So the CPE is their certification, and same idea, but in this case, people who visit the website for the virtual conference, but don't register for the conference and leave, now ads are falling around driving people to click to register. So just a few more examples there. So one of the advantages of this type of targeted digital advertising is that it's very measurable. You can see what happens at every step of the way. So you can see how much money you've spent, how many people have seen the ads, how many people have clicked the ads, how many unique people saw the ads. So these are some stats here showing for this particular campaign, they spent $1,600. Their ads were seen 375,000 separate times that they load. So again, that kind of shows the cost efficiency of this mechanism. It does not cost a lot of money to show your ads to a very large reach of people. In fact, it's so cheap to buy this type of targeted digital advertising that people don't even talk about how much does it cost to show the ad once. They talk about how much does it cost to show the ad 1,000 times. It's like a fraction of a penny every single time. And so these transactions, these bids are quite low. And each time an ad loads, again, it's a fraction of a penny. So typically it costs between $3 and $5 to show an ad 1,000 separate times. And so you see here for $1,500, their ads were shown 375,000 separate times. So again, CPM, which is the cost per mil, or the cost to show an ad 1,000 times, is in their case was $4.41 for every 1,000 times their ads were shown. Anyway, so you can see, all right, the ads were shown 375,000 times over, I can't see how long this campaign was running, but say that was over a 2-month period. Their ads were seen an average of 55 times per person. Their ads were clicked just shy of 1,500 times. They reached just shy of 7,000 unique people. And so again, these 7,000 people were getting sustained exposure over this, whatever it was, 2, 3. Actually, I can see up here. It was going from June to September. Okay, so this was, a 3 months long campaign, 3 or 4 months long campaign, right? So over 4 months, this was a steady drip where people were seeing these ads like 55 times per person over a 4-month period. How much did it cost per click? How much did it cost? This is CPA per acquisition. So that ultimately means what were they trying to do? So in this case, I think they were trying to get people to register for an online event. And so in this case, it cost $5.07 per acquisition, meaning for every person that registered for the event. It costs $1.12 for every person that clicked one of these ads. It's a heat map of where the ads were shown. They can see kind of day-by-day stats. Where did the ads show up? So you can see here they showed up on Yahoo, they showed up on eBay, they showed up on the AOL kind of set of news sites and so forth. So again, the advantage of this is that it's very measurable. You can see every step of the way what happens. It also allows you to do A/B tests. So maybe you try 2 different calls to action. One focused on like a very clear, like donate now, another one that says learn more, right? You might have one where it shows photos of like real people, another one that shows more like your branding and your logo, or has like cartoons on it, right? And so you can A/B test different calls to action, you can A/B test different messaging, different branding, and you can really clearly see, is it working or not?
Aidan, I've been getting quite a few questions, so I've been sending you over those questions I've been getting.
Perfect.
Want to answer some of them?
Absolutely, yeah, this is good. I'll post it. All right, so dedicated marketing person, right? So that's our time is valuable. We don't have this dedicated marketing person. Standard ad size we should be creating. So there's kind of 2 questions within that. So one is about time and usage of time, right? So, like anything, this is one of those things that's like easy to start, hard to master. So there are ways you can do the bare minimum amount of retargeting will still drive results, because again, you're only paying to reach people for the website. So I would recommend that even if you are strapped for time, you consider doing kind of like simple retargeting 101 as part of your marketing mix, there are a number of tools out there that make it pretty easy. One of them is called AdRoll. AdRoll is very friendly, self-serve, free. So that's one that's fairly easy to use, very user-friendly. There are also options, where you can pay someone to do it, right? You can find whether a freelancer or a smaller agency. Feathr is not free, so we're not necessarily the entry-level version of this. However, Feathr does have like a managed service option. So like if you choose to invest, there's an option where we'll just use it for you. There are other people out there like that will do the creative design and ad management for you. So that's something you consider if time is a constraint. In terms of standard ad sizes, yeah, there are a few standard ones, and I've shown a couple of them here, right? So there's like 1 or 2 standard mobile sizes. There's 1 or 2 standard, or there's actually 3. There's 3 kind of standard web sizes, right? So there's this kind of tall one here, and there's so there's the leaderboard example here, and then there's this one. So I'm happy to share those specific specs. I don't know if it makes sense to rattle them off here, but there are a few standard sizes that get you kind of the most reach for the least amount of design effort. All right, I'll answer a couple more questions here. To start receiving ad revenue on the other side, right? So Google has the easiest, just kind of like drag and drop, copy and paste some code into your website, and then they'll start filling it with ads. AdSense is the name of that program. Unless you have significant website traffic, though, you probably will not make meaningful money off of it. Like I said, the flip side of it being very cheap for you to do this, right? $3 to $5 a show and 1,000 times, is that you don't get paid that much on the other side for this unless you have like huge amounts of site traffic. And also that that $3 to $5 that you pay as an advertiser, there's a lot of steps that are taking a cut along the way. The ad exchanges take a cut, whatever tool you're using takes a cut, and then by the time it gets to CNN.com, they're probably getting half that or less, right? Because every kind of like step in the transaction takes a piece of the advertising spend. So if you want to look at the other side, which is you want to place ads on your website and just have them fill programmatically, without having to do any work, that will work, and you'll get some amount of money, and Google will send you a check each month. But unless you have, hundreds of thousands of page views per month, it probably won't move the needle for you. It might be, a couple $100 maybe, if that, if you're not like cracking 100,000. So that's just a quick comment on that. It's not very lucrative to just do the kind of easy drag and drop Google AdSense approach. But depending on how you look at it, it is free money. You don't really have to do anything, because again, they'll fill the ad space for you. So local market, yeah. So that's I'll get back to this. Can you drill down locally? The short answer though is yes, in 2 different ways. So one is that for retargeting, which is saying, hey, who are people who have visited my website recently, you can layer in a geography filter saying, of the people who have visited my website recently, I only want to target ads to the ones that are in a certain city, a certain state, a certain country, right? So I show you here, these are screenshots of Feathr's reporting, where we show like a heat map of where the ads are shown. So in this case, they didn't limit that at all, right? Or maybe they limited it to just the US. I can't quite tell from here. But if you wanted to say, I only want my ads to show to people in Gainesville, that's a setting. You can layer in city, state, and country level restriction on it. Separately, there's also something called geofencing. So geofencing is different than retargeting. Retargeting is saying, who's been to my website recently, and I want to follow them around with ads. And again, you can filter further by location. Geofencing, we'll get to a little bit later, but that's a way of reaching people that are in a specific building or in a specific city block. All right, there's a couple more questions here, but I think I'll get to them as we go along. So what I want to unpack, since we kind of just opened the box there, is retargeting is really only one piece of this broader set of options called programmatic advertising. So programmatic advertising is kind of the parent category, which is any type of automated purchasing of ads, right? Where you as the advertiser, you are setting audience targeting criteria, saying, I want to reach people that match these criteria. That's the only people I want to spend money on. So you think about traditional advertising sales. Traditional advertising sales was done over the phone, and this is still done for print, right? So for print, you're calling up a salesperson, you're negotiating a price, and then like when the magazine goes to print or the paper goes to print, your ad's either in it or it's not, but everybody who gets that newspaper is getting the same ad, right? So that is traditional advertising sales. That still takes place, but in less places outside of print. Programmatic is basically, again, all that's happening automatically, right? These computers are talking to each other. So like you're setting criteria on the front end, but then you just set it and forget it. It's just happening. You're not like talking to the NewYorkTimes.com every time an opportunity comes up for like a single ad to load. So that's the definition of programmatic advertising. And there's this concept of audiences, right? And so an example of an audience, the one we talked about so far, is who's visited my website, right? So that's as an advertiser through programmatic advertising, I want to show ads only to the people who have visited my website. But there are other types of audiences that you might want to target, right? So you might say, I want to target my ads to female golf enthusiasts who live in Alabama. That would be different, right? Retargeting is this first one. This is a different type of audience-based targeting. You might say, I want to target ads to the same people who are subscribed to my newsletter, right? That's a different audience. You might say, I want to target ads to people who are similar to blank, similar to the people who have visited my website, not the people who actually visited my website. I want to use that as kind of a way to find net new people, but the people who are similar to them. Can you do that for me, right? So these are additional types of audience targeting. And those are all, they reflect different types of programmatic advertising. So retargeting is kind of like the first one here, the most obvious, but these are all different options that you have available to you for reaching net new people. So if you don't have a lot of site traffic, retargeting might not be that appealing to you, but if you want to reach new people that you think might be a good match for whether it is the services you offer or the programs that you have, or if you're trying to reach people you think are likely to donate to the cause, you can layer in these other types of audience targeting. This is getting a little bit technical, but basically like first party is stuff that you own, right? So these are like the ones highlighted in blue would be considered first party from that list. The ones that are in black here would be considered third party. So first party is just like first party data. These are the audiences you own, your website traffic, your email visitors. That's first party audiences. Third party audiences is basically paying for someone else's data, right? So like somebody has categorized the female golf enthusiasts of Alabama and they're making that data available to you to tap into for some type of fee. So just like a quick run through here, site retargeting is what we talked about earlier. There's also the option to do what's called CRM retargeting or email mapping, which is you upload an email list and then it matches and finds those people around the internet using the email as kind of the key and says, oh, this email address, I've seen this person because they subscribe to this newsletter. And you know, a lot of websites around the internet basically are selling that data in this federated manner under the scenes. And that's kind of like a technical wormhole that we don't need to go into, but just so you know that's happening. And what it means for you is if you have email lists, you can upload an email list and then you can target those people with ads. Even if you never actually send them an email, it's just using the email list as the way to kind of find that same person on the web. So this is particularly useful if you have larger email lists than you have website traffic, which we found to be the case for, at least in the world of like membership-based organizations. That tends to be a resource they have a lot of, which is email addresses from previous years' attendees, previous years of members, and they have a lot of kind of data in their email database, but maybe they don't have significant site traffic. Geofencing. Geofencing is very specifically a certain building, or you select a number of different buildings or a city block. You can kind of expand the selection to say this building and like an area around it. Target those people. That's a particularly interesting one. I think that's the only other one I'll really highlight here today. There's a few other options. Search keywords, who searched something recently. Look, which is basically saying, analyze my website traffic, find other people like them, and you're kind of trusting an algorithm to do that for you, and there are tools that do that. You can kind of, this bottom one, this is kind of what Facebook does, right? Which is they've tagged people based on their own data, like personas or interests or context, and they'll basically say, hey, do you want to reach people that are interested in this topic? And you kind of just trust that Facebook has enough data to tag people accordingly. So those are all different types, different ways you can show ads to people. So just like retargeting is show ads to people who visited my website recently, email mapping would be show ads to people who are on my email list, and on from there. There's different ways to show the right ad to the right person at the right time. I'm going to skip this. So yeah, I'm going to jump over to geofencing because I think that's probably the most interesting, and then we can see whatever questions are left here because I don't want to throw too much at you here. So geofencing is, again, you literally type in an address of a building and you put in the date range and you basically say anyone who is in this radius in this date range, I want to target them with ads. And there are companies out there that their whole business model is they are collecting location-based signals from devices, and they tag them based on where they were at certain points of time. Again, this is done anonymously, so they don't know specifically who it is. They just know, oh, this specific iPhone was in this building in this date range, and they make that available for targeting ads. So this is particularly useful as a way to get at indirectly get at people who might be more likely to donate for different reasons. So, for example, we've had some customers that I think IJM might have been one of them, where they had a hypothesis that faith-based organizations were very likely to be gathering places of people who would be likely to donate in support of their mission, right, the international justice mission. And so what they decided to do is they geofenced hundreds of different churches and synagogues and targeted ads to people who had gone to those churches. And that was kind of their indirect way of saying, I want to show ads to people who are religious, active religious, because I think that that is a likely indicator that they're going to support and donate to this cause. Another example we've seen is geofencing, like particular, in this example here actually, is geofencing a convention center during the dates that a specific large convention or trade show or conference took place around a specific industry, right? And so for many of our customers that run like industry-specific conferences, so like one of our customers might be the Wisconsin Medical Society, and maybe there's another medical conference taking place in Wisconsin that's run by a for-profit organization that's running a different medical conference. And so what the Wisconsin Medical Society might do is they might geofence the hotel or the convention center during their competitors' conference or trade show, so that everybody, all the doctors that went to that other conference are going to see ads from about their conference, which is coming up 2 months later, right? And so that's a way that, like, if someone else has done the hard work of gathering lots of similar people for a big convention or conference or trade show or whatever it might be in one building, you can geofence that building and kind of just like piggyback on the work they've done, and then all those people will see your ads. And it's not only showing the ads like in real time, you can continue to show the ads to them weeks later, just based on the fact that they were in that building at that given time. So whether that's political rallies or it's conventions or it's conferences or it's trade shows, you can also think of like activities that tend to be done maybe by high net worth individuals, if those are your donor targets. So I think we had another example of a customer who geofenced a bunch of Top Golf locations because their thesis was like people who spent money and time on Top Golf probably had discretionary spend, and then those are people that perhaps would be likely to donate, right? And I don't know whether that worked or not, but that's just an idea. You could think of like what buildings you represent, like people who probably have spending money, or again, in a faith-based example, people who might be aligned with this specific mission. In the example of the associations, it's what's an indicator that these people are like in my profession or in my industry, and that's the common example of the trade show or the conference. So those are just some ways that geofencing can be used. I think you can layer in zip codes. That's another type of location-based targeting. So if certain zip codes kind of correlate with higher net worth, or that's something you might consider targeting for donation drives. There's a lot of different things you can do here. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I see a couple other questions here. All right, so limited budget, donation base, primary donor base is locally here in Gainesville. So kind of where would it make sense to put the toes in the water of, say, email mapping versus geofencing versus ad retargeting? If you have site traffic and if you have email lists, I would recommend those two pretty much every time, because those two, by their nature, are people who already have more awareness of you, right? And so they will be more bang for your buck. Geofencing is a way to reach net new people, and that's great, but it is not going to be the same bang for your buck as retargeting, because retargeting, again, it's people who have already been to your site, and email mapping of like your subscribers, it's people who are already on your newsletter. So previous donors, right? You can do email mapping of previous donors and try to get them to donate again. So email mapping and ad retargeting are the most bang for your buck, just because, again, it's a warmer audience. It's people who already know who you are, who already have engaged with you in the past. Those are both the places I would suggest you start. It's really only if either you don't have like any website traffic or don't have email lists of a meaningful size. And when I say meaningful, really the minimums for these aren't that high, but it's probably you need at least 1,000 unique visitors a month for retargeting to probably move the needle for you. And similarly for an email list, you probably need I would say 2,000, 3,000, so that hopefully, if you have a 50% match rate, you can get 1,000 of them to successfully find that person around the web, so that you can start targeting them. Because email mapping, again, typically it's 50 to 60% of the emails will successfully match, and you'll find the cookie for that person, and you can target them. So yes, you probably need 1,000 uniques a month for retargeting your work. You probably need an email list of 2,000 to 3,000 for email mapping to work. So if you don't hit those numbers, that's when I would consider starting looking at things like geofencing. And I'll make a quick note about Facebook. I just showed a couple of different examples here from startGNV, right? And these are 3 different examples. One here is driving signups to our newsletter. One here is promoting a specific event where it was call to action was getting tickets. The third here was driving donations. In this case, we do an annual drive in memory of Josh Greenberg, who was the co-founder and CTO of GrooveShark, which is one of the first kind of tech companies in Gainesville to really hit it big. And he individually was a major leader and inspiration for the tech startup community. And so we do this annual donation drive in his name, and we have an award and a grant each year that we give to a young entrepreneur, kind of in Josh Greenberg's memory. So 3 different examples here: an event, a donation drive, and an email newsletter sign up. So Facebook is interesting because Facebook can do most of the things I've talked about so far, and you can kind of do it all in one place. So Facebook can do the email matching, right? You can upload an email list to Facebook, and if they can find Facebook profiles of those people, you can then target those people on Facebook with ads. Facebook can do retargeting, so you can drop the Facebook tracking code in your website, and you can retarget people on the web. It can't do geofencing as specifically, although it can target by location, so you could filter Gainesville or the state or specific cities. So Facebook can do different types of targeting options, and then obviously they bring their own data to bear, which is the interests and the contextual persona-based targeting, which is like, I want to target people who like these topics, or whatever, all the data Facebook has, which is tremendous about us. You can target people with those criteria. So Facebook is an interesting one because of that fact. That all said, Facebook is pretty complex to use their ads manager. There's a lot going on there. It's very powerful, but it is not the most user friendly. Boosting posts is one thing. So like if you have a post and they make it pretty easy to like click to just boost it, but actually using the ads manager is a little bit more of an undertaking. It's very powerful. If you have a marketer who you think has the appetite to learn it, I would strongly recommend it. But most of the questions come in here are on, hey, we don't even have a dedicated marketer. This is kind of on the side, time constraint, which is very common with nonprofits. It's hard for me to say like you should start with Facebook, given that it is one of the more complicated entry level ones. It's probably of interest, AdRoll and other tools, Feathr for that matter. Although again, we're not free. AdRoll is free, so that's where I would suggest you start. But AdRoll lets you do Facebook through it, and it simplifies it a little bit. Same with us. So there are tools that try to simplify Facebook a little bit. Again, very powerful. Does a lot of stuff in one place, but again, can be a little bit intimidating. All right. Size of the market. So the question, drilling into local with retargeting. I think I answered that earlier. So you have retargeting your site, but you can layer in, but only if they're here. And yes, most tools that let you do that will show you. So like speaking from Feathr's standpoint, so like in Feathr's case, we have the website analytics, right? And you can say, okay, 10,000 people have visited my website in the last month. And then when you would go to say, okay, I want to retarget them, but I only want to retarget the ones in Gainesville, right? So say, okay, well, of the 10,000, only 3,000 of them are in Gainesville. So most tools will show you those numbers as you try to create the segments. Similarly, you can retarget. It's not just like anyone who's been to your website. If you wanted to, you could say, well, I want to only retarget the people who have been to the donate page, right? So who have already clicked through not just the home page, but they've looked at the donate page, or they've looked at the Our Mission page, or whatever it might be, right? So you can filter in that manner as well. You can say, I'm only going to show ads to people who have been to at least this specific page at least once. So that's another way you can kind of segment, or you could show different ads to different people, right? So people who have been to the home page but have never been to the donate page, maybe you can exclude. You could say you can exclude visitors to the donate page, only target people who have been to the home page, right? And that would be one message. Whereas people who have already been to the donate page, or people who have already donated and you're trying to get a repeat donation, you might show them a different ad, right? You would a different message saying, hey, you supported us last year, you supported us last month, donate again, we really need you. And so those are all ways you can filter. And most tools of this nature will show you, as you layer in those filters, it will say like, okay, well actually there's only 43 people that match that criteria, so maybe that's not a good segment. So as you create the segments, it'll show you the size of those audiences. Excuse me. Did I answer one of the questions? Most important KPI to look at with retargeting. That's a good one. I mean, really, ultimately, I'm going to go back to this the screenshot that showed the analytics. Where is it? I mean, really, it's this one, CPA, which means cost per acquisition, which is to actually get the result you wanted, the outcome, however you define that. Donation drive would be they successfully donated. How much did it cost per acquisition or per action, right? Because sometimes it is worth spending more money per click or more money to show the ads. CPM is the kind of cost to show ads. The CPC is the cost for each click. And there's a lot of focus on those two much of the time, and they're worth keeping an eye on. But ultimately, this last one is all that matters, right? If you're paying $30 CPM, which would be considered incredibly expensive, but every single person donated, right? I mean, you would take that deal all day, right? The cost per acquisition would be a split or a fraction of a penny. So really, it's ultimately about the cost per acquisition, the CPA. This is like for every $5.07 spent, this campaign drove one incremental conference registration, I think was this example. So that's the one that ultimately matters. It doesn't matter really how much you're paying per click or per impression if it's getting the job done. Just scrolling back, did I miss any here? KPI is key performance indicator. So that's so KPIs, key performance indicators. It's like the most important metrics to focus on in a given campaign. So yeah, I mean, any of these here would be considered KPIs. So it's kind of the things worth reporting on is another kind of way of translating that. But again, I would say the most important one is this last one here. Cool. All right. Well, hopefully that was helpful. If there's no other questions, I'll give you your last 15 minutes of this hour back. Unless if Leslie has additional or David announcements.
This is great. If anybody has any more questions, or if your question is too long to type, you can just type in unmute me. I'm happy to unmute you, but we will, and of course, if anybody continues to have questions, we're happy to send them on to Aidan to reach out to you afterwards. We definitely appreciate you being with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to help. And if anyone's interested in talking more about it, like I said, happy to make myself available to do so. So feel free to, I guess, reach out to Leslie or David, and they can connect along.
Thank you. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on the Wednesday webinar. This has been recorded. We will upload this. You can find it on our YouTube channel, and you can also find this on our COVID response and recovery page on our website. Last thing is that our Wednesday webinars are now moving to every other Wednesday. So please join us back May 13th for our next Wednesday webinar. And topic is coming up soon. We're going to try to work on those of you that are going back into the office soon, and we'll be going back to serving your clients, trying to do some safety trainings for you. So we'll get those coming on May 13th, and we'll be in touch soon. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Aidan.
And thank you for everything you all do for the community. Have a good one.
Bye.